Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hey! All right, guys, this ain't no time for laughter. This ain't no time for jokes. This is a time to get in tune with NaySay. All right, let me just start out by saying, ladies and gentlemen, 8:46. Now, y'all already know I did a whole NaySay just on Dave Chappelle's phenomenal 8:46 set when he spoke about the murder of George Floyd. Okay, so let me tell you something about 8:46. We thought that was a long time, ladies and gentlemen, but lo and behold, it came out in this current trial of Derek Chauvin, the racist police officer who murdered George Floyd, that it was really 9:29. Okay, so I know for a fact from my training as an officer, as well as after retirement, I like to box, and 3 minutes in a round is a long time. And this is with friendly people, with people just trying to train you, right? So could you imagine being under the weight of a grown man's knee, a racist white man, for over 9 minutes? So, just a cautionary tale, it's always worse than what we see. Ladies and gentlemen, please be advised. 8:46 was really 9:29. Okay, so white supremacy is the devil. I don't even know why this is not even a topic. This is just me being, stating the obvious. Okay, so recently, there's this thing about stop Asian hate, right? Okay, I'm cool with you stopping Asian hate after you stop just racism toward black people. Okay, let's put things in chronological order, okay? Because 1 + 1 is 2. 1 + 1 is not, as somebody that I love immensely says, 1 + 1 is not brown shoes. Okay, so let's stop killing black people. Let's stop racism. We'll get to stopping Asian hate afterwards. Okay, so FYI, there was a young black girl by the name of Latasha Harlan. She was 15 years old, and she was murdered in what we in Brooklyn in New York like to call a bodega. Some of you guys all over the country, you might call it a mini mart or a convenience store. Nonetheless, it was a supermarket, if you will, on the smaller scale, and it was owned by an Asian woman, a Korean woman, I believe, and this Korean woman was 51 years old, and she murdered this 15-year-old black girl by the name of Latasha Harlan by shooting her in the back of her head. Okay, so we're going to fast forward. This happened in 1991, around the unlucky number 13 days after the whole Rodney King situation. Followed a bouncing ball. Oop, oop, oop. So this Korean woman, 51, murders Latasha Harlan by shooting her in the back of her head in a bodega in LA 13 days after Rodney King video pops out. And yes, she went on trial. And yes, she was found guilty and convicted of manslaughter. However, please be advised, white people aren't the only people racist against black people. So a Spanish person, like a Venezuelan person, right, whose father was a high executive in Warner Brothers studio. I don't know if that means anything, but I'm just giving you the full scope. Okay, so this Spanish person connected to the father, who is a high-level executive in Warner Brothers, that individual sentenced the Asian Korean woman who murdered Latasha Harlan by shooting her in the back of the head, was sentenced to only 5 years probation and given 400 hours of community service. So that 15-year-old girl's life was worth 5 years probation and 400 hours of community service. I'll let you see a little quick connection. So this whole thing, Stop Asian Hate, how about when Akai Gurley, the black young man who was murdered, I say murdered because that's what it was to me. He was murdered in the stairwell in the projects of pink houses in East New York, Brooklyn. And Akai Gurley, at the time of his murder, was only 28 years old. And the Asian police officer who murdered him was 27. The officer's name is Peter Liang. He also was convicted of manslaughter. Remember, this is in LA, one is in New York, two hot spots. So he was convicted of manslaughter. But the court, see what I'm saying about these racist folks? The court reduced his sentence down to criminally negligent homicide. Thereby, he was only given 5 years of probation. So the other woman who killed Latasha Hollins back in 1991 was given 5 years probation. And the cop was given 5 years probation way in 2014. So what changed? What? Okay, so she got 5 years probation, and he got 5. What changed in that long time span between 1991 and 2014? So the Asian community jumped up in arms, and they said the police department, NYPD, is using Officer Liang as a scapegoat, and they were up in arms, said he will not be the NYPD's sacrificial lamb. So a Supreme Court justice by the name of Danny Chun, who also is Korean, he gave Peter Liang, the former NYPD officer who murdered Akai Gurley in the stairwell in the projects of the pink houses, he gave him probation and 800 hours of community service. Y'all let me know when y'all stop that whole capping thing for Stop Asian Hate. Because I still need y'all to be on the front lines for why are black people being murdered. Okay, so we're going to put a pin right there because I understand Asian mistreatment. I understand the Trail of Tears. I understand internment camps. But I also understand that you all got reparations. Get into it. I also understand that as a result, you all got all of those, I don't know what you call them, Korea towns, China towns, and you also have all of those mini marts and hair supplies and beauty supplies and also the nails, massage parlors and all of that stuff. So until we had a full-fledged conversation about how Asians are prejudiced, my flag is red, black, and green. Get into it. Okay, so now real quick, I want to jump into this whole thing with Mr. Dante Wright, the most recent murdered young black man, 20 years old, father of a baby boy. I believe the baby is 2. I believe his mother is white and his father is black. And his black aunt on his father's side was screaming on television saying, when is this going to stop? I don't know when it's going to stop, but I'm telling you right now, 400 years are up. So, Mr. Dante Wright was in a town called Brooklyn Center, Minneapolis. Brooklyn Center, Minneapolis. You know I'm a woman of a certain age, and it's hot up in here. And Nelly ain't even singing. But anyway, Mr. Dante Wright was in his automobile, and he saw the flashing lights. So he called his mom and said, Mom, you know, the popo is behind me. Mom Duke said, okay, do everything right, you know, the hands and watch yourself and all of the stuff that we tell our children. So they pulled him over. He said, Mom, they pulling me over because of the air freshener in my car, in my rear view mirror rather. So when they approached the car, the cops evidently said, nah, we're stopping you because you got an outstanding warrant. However, ladies and gentlemen, please be advised, if you don't know, NaySay is here to tell you. The warrant that was issued for Mr. Dante Wright was issued because of a notice to appear. He failed to appear in court. He had a notice to appear in court. As a result of his failure to appear, a warrant was issued for his arrest. Now, the notice to appear did not reach his residence. It went to the wrong address. So how do I even know I have a notice to appear? Let's just play devil's advocate and say he knew. Okay, so you did not stop him because of an outstanding warrant, because how would you know that a warrant was outstanding? So you pulled him over for whatever the reason, and then you murder him. Let's just cut through all of the she screamed taser. The taser is neon yellow and the Glock is all black. Let's forget that the taser is much lighter than the Glock. Let's also forget that she's a 26-year veteran who is the head of the union, who's also a training officer, who was also in the midst of training while she was murdering. Let's knock all of that out and just say Goldilocks is racist. Because see, NaySay is going through a little life moment here. It is hot up in here and Nelly ain't singing. I'm cutting through the chase because we making this quick. Goldilocks the racist murdered a black man. Period, point blank. All of that, the taser is light. The color is neon yellow. How did she not know? She knew. She was well versed in training. She was a trainer of officers. She's the head of the union. She's got 26 years on the job. She's a racist. Please be advised, right? I believe in straight talk makes for straight understanding. Let's stop saying these nice little, if you're fat, overweight, chunky, we're not going to call you, I don't know, thick in the waist and pretty in the face. You're a pretty fat girl. End of the story. Call it like it is. I'm NaySay, and I have something to say. Okay, so her name is Kim Potter, and that's Goldilocks, the racist. So she killed him, ladies and gentlemen. And do you know why she killed him? She's a police officer in a town that was founded by the head of the KKK, and that man's name was Earl Brown. Earl Brown was the head of the KKK. He founded the town of Brooklyn Center, and he was also the sheriff. So it is embedded in the DNA and the fabric of the United States of America, as well as in these little pocket towns like Levittown in Long Island in New York. Levittown was specifically designed just for white people, like the whole entire state of Oregon. These things are known, and NaySay have spoken about them before. So we're not going to get caught up in why Officer Racist Goldilocks Kim Potter murdered unarmed black man Dante Wright. We're not going to get into the semantics of taser, oh shit, I shot him. No, bitch, you murdered him. We saw it, you did it, and you're a racist. Period, point blank. Officer Gutierrez, you know, down in Windsor, Virginia, with the lieutenant in the army, Mr. Caron Nazario. Yes. So Gutierrez, I don't know about you, but I heard a little racist joke a long time ago when I was working in corrections, because you know it's a bunch of them there too. And this white dude said if it ends in a Z or a vowel, they're Puerto Rican. You make of it what you want. Okay, so if your name is, I don't know, Sanchez, Valdez, what's Alvarez, anything with the Z, and Goldilocks and Tarzan don't like you because they just racist, they gonna say, oh, I knew he was Puerto Rican. I knew he was a what they call y'all? Spicks? Right? Wetbacks for the Mexicans. Don't they call y'all something? Right. So I knew he was that because his name ended in a Z, or it was Molina. It ended in a vowel. Get into it. So, ladies and gentlemen, our enemy is white supremacy. But they've convinced all of us that We're enemies against one another. So Officer Gutierrez, I don't know if you are Spanish in name only, or if you truly are of Spanish heritage, but you live in your mind like a white man. Do any of y'all out there in the Spanish speaking world, Spanish culture, have any family members with the white mindset? Let's see, they like to accuse black people of that. I wonder if it's the same with y'all. Somebody put me in contact with J-Lo. But anyway, all I want to know is, why did Officer Gutierrez do what he did? Obviously, he has a racist mindset, because not only was Lieutenant Navarro with the Spanish connection, right? Like hermano, right? He had that connection. The name was right there. He was in full uniform, full entire uniform. So I'm not understanding why this has happened. I am lost. One of my lives went down, ladies and gentlemen, but I am lost as to why that happened to disregard Lieutenant Nazario. But the only thing I can attribute it to is Officer Gutierrez's racist mindset. So keeping that in mind is, why is Officer Gutierrez like that? That's something for him to evaluate for himself. But the way he disrespected Lieutenant Nazario, the way he spoke to him, conflicting orders, how he pepper sprayed that man while he was sitting in his car, while he was strapped in his seatbelt, while his hands were out the window. I'm so glad Lieutenant Nazario had the presence of mind to say, I'm not even unbuckling my seatbelt, because I will not allow you to say that I was reaching for my legal Army-issued sidearm. You will not say I was reaching for my gun. Nope. With pepper spray all in his eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, I've told you 1,002 times, I was in law enforcement. I had that in training go across my face. And let me tell you something. I was in training and they did it gently and it burned. Could you imagine the intensity spraying in your eyes, direct contact? But his experience in the military, his rank in the military, his training, he was more calm in that situation than the two officers with loaded, cocked, ready to shoot weapons aimed at his face. How is it that officers with training, and I went yearly, so I suppose most people go yearly. How is it that officers with yearly training, with time and experience, why are they so amped up and expect a civilian to be calm while two fully armed officers are pointing guns directly at their face? How are you supposed to be calm? But Lieutenant Nazario was calm, and look what happened to him. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, party people all over the world, if you are watching NaySay right now, let me tell you, if black people can get shot butt naked, look it up, a black man was butt naked. I don't know, he might have had a little mental situation going on, but he was far away, hands up, butt naked, and they shot him. The black man was on the ground with the autistic boy, and his hands were up, and he said, please don't shoot, I have nothing, and he's autistic. They shot the black man and said, oops, we made a mistake, we meant to shoot the autistic boy. Like they all come up with every excuse. And I'm telling you, the only way that this is going to stop is, one, when we're in control, let's start there, and two, when they get rid of qualified immunity. These officers, not only do they need to be fired the day of, no later than the day after, they need to be immediately terminated, because guess what? They don't give us due process. They are the judge and the jury. So, and the executioner. So why don't we do the same thing right away? What are we waiting for? Let me tell y'all something. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. It happened in threes, right? Clusters, like it was back to back to back. Now we got Officer Nazario, disregard Lieutenant Nazario, and we have Dante Wright. Who's next? How are we going to stop this? Okay, here's my philosophy, ladies and gentlemen. I always say, and I'm about to close, 400 years are up. I say 400 years are up. Genesis 13, 14 and 15, right? 15, disregard Genesis 15, 13 and 14. Genesis 15, 13 and 14. Read it for yourself. But I say 400 years are up because every person, when I say every, I mean from the first slave ship, every person that was murdered at the hands of white supremacy were murdered prior to our 400 years. I'm talking up to Dr. King. I'm talking George Floyd. I'm talking all of these people. Now, when you look at when our 400 years were up, I say 2019. Give or take. 2020 is the year of COVID. So everybody, the world was locked down. The world was closed. So everybody was glued to their social media, their televisions, the computer, the internet. And everybody saw George Floyd die and screamed for his mother. Mama. Mama. We all heard it. I'm a mother. I felt it. I didn't just hear it. I felt it. So when you look at this thing from a spiritual standpoint, 400 years are up. It's fastly approaching, right? Joe Biden, I believe, made amends and is trying to atone. We got to get this legislation, however. We got to fight for this legislation because the longer we fight, the harder they come. They're coming harder and faster. And now they want to put more laws on these books. Remember, slavery was legal. Slavery was legal, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't this thing where it's, they just had us enslaved. No, they wrote laws. They wrote laws to protect Goldilocks when she was killing your babies. And your babies were generally murdered because Goldilocks knew her husband, Tarzan, her father, her brother, her uncles, her pastor, the local sheriff, whoever they were, she knew that they went into those slave quarters and raped those black women and made those light-skinned dead babies, and she murdered them. So they put laws on the books to protect Goldilocks' murderous ass. Now, I believe in laws and I believe in order, but I'm tired of us being under their knee. What are we going to do about it? That is the big question, right? But what I will say to you, ladies and gentlemen, is we cannot give up. We have to fight and call it out. We have to vote. Y'all don't like that. Some people don't like it. Oh, well, we have to vote. And we have to understand that knowledge is key. We have to communicate with one another. And we have to be honest about that communication. In addition to honesty, we have to come with facts and not just emotion. I love you. Peace, be still. God bless.